My first episode last week got a pretty strong reception, and a lot of people want me to continue doing these, though I'm not sure how much of that has to do with that first episode being about the infamous Norm of the North. In any case, this week we have yet another lowest common denominator comedy that did not work. Dirty Grandpa stars Robert De Niro as Zac Efron's grandfather, and we have to we have to endure their antics. Here's a clip.
You ready to hit the road?
I'm really sorry, Grandpa. I didn't think you'd be doing that.
So you caught me taking a number 3. Big deal, right?
Number 3?
Have a drink.
No. I'm driving, so I'm
Just gonna finish up my exercises, and then we'll hop on 16 to 95.
Grandpa, are you sure you're okay?
Thanks for doing this, by the way. I made a tea time for us in Florida for this afternoon. You can use your grandmother's lady clubs. They're right there by the front door.
Okay.
All right. You ready?
I thought the plan was to have breakfast here.
That's your breakfast. Now let's get in that giant labia you drove up in and get out of here.
This is one of those comedies that seems to exist mainly to shock the audience, and that's it. There's nothing wrong with offensive and vulgar humor, but there needs to be a point behind it, as the best jokes often do. However, Dirty Grandpa is just mean-spirited. This is a film that asks us to root for and be charmed by a recent 70-year-old widower where one of his central motivations is to sleep with a college-aged girl. Does he sound like somebody you want to spend 100 minutes with? It does not help that Robert De Niro gives one of his weakest performances to date, and it's unbelievable that Zac Efron would just agree to help De Niro in his shenanigans. The comedy not only revels in the gross, but they keep on repeating the same gags over and over again. Think Robert De Niro sticking his thumb in Zac Efron's rear end is funny? Well, get ready to watch that 20 million times. I almost lost count at how many points the script relies on tired weed and dick jokes. Oh, and did I mention this movie is really homophobic? Happy Madison comedies are almost progressive by comparison. There's also a forced romance that blossoms between Efron and a former high school friend that just doesn't work. And Aubrey Plaza, who I usually like, really got on my nerves here. Zac Efron is probably the best part of this film, as he does an okay job at playing the straight man to the shenanigans. It's almost a reversal of what he did in Neighbors, and he's adequate in the role. It's just a shame he's saddled with an unfunny script, but you can tell how much Efron is trying. There's a scene in this movie with a completely pointless cameo from Danny Glover where the character is watching Alf. And I thought to myself, can't we just stay here and watch Alf reruns? I could use some good laughs because I'm not finding any here. So, let's move on to our next film, The Fifth Wave, the latest young adult film adaptation, this one featuring Chloe Grace Moretz fighting an alien invasion. Here's a clip.
Let's be clear. I'm not taking orders from you. I'm not going to die with your geniuses. If anyone in this barrack touches me, I'll kill them.
Anything else?
I like to play chess. Do you play?
No, actually. But if you want to play some strip poker later...
And no demeaning, sexist remarks.
When it comes to young adult film adaptations, I was really fond of The Hunger Games, while both the Divergent and Maze Runner series leave me cold. Thankfully, The Fifth Wave kept me very intrigued, mainly since, rather than focusing on the aftermath of the apocalypse, the film looks at how one begins. The way the aliens concoct the invasion of Earth is in steps, and that makes it more scary than if they did it in one fell swoop. It's the equivalent of somebody slowly pulling the legs off a spider one by one, rather than squashing it in one go. Chloe Moretz is a capable lead, and I think the film is at its most interesting when it's mainly her alone in the forest, and there's some genuinely tense scenes when she's hiding from the aliens. She's not super athletic and not trained, and that makes her a better written protagonist and makes her predicament seem real. The movie also cuts to this squad of child soldiers and how the military uses them to fight out this threat, and it works as a solid commentary on how some countries use kids for their own battles. These youngsters are also distinct, which makes the war sequences that much more exciting. What does drag the film down at points is the obligatory romance that seems to happen in these young adult adaptations. The dialogue is super corny, and Alex Rowe's acting was just flat and boring. It's completely unnecessary, and I think it would have been better if it was just Moretz by her lonesome. It also doesn't help that she looks 15 and her love interest looks about 30. What is it about the May-December romances in this week's releases? It's really creepy. Thankfully, the film does have a strong climax, even if there's one little thing that bothered me that I won't get into for spoiler reasons. But overall, The Fifth Wave actually had an intriguing and decently executed premise through a lot of its runtime. Just needed to cut out the love story. I don't know why that's a prerequisite for films aimed at teenagers. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.